The boy Puffy called me though. Puffy called me back in the day. He called me, he was like, I just want you to know I ain't have nothing to do with your...
Is he this gangster that behind the scenes is that him? Or is that
Shout out to Wendy Williams.
Jay's new FBI files are shaking the very foundations of hip-hop history. Documents claim that Jay Z, one of the most powerful men in music, was not only aware of, but may have even helped Diddy orchestrate the chilling assassination of Tupac Shakur. And for decades, he allegedly stayed silent. Tonight, we dive deep into these explosive claims, peeling back the layers of secrecy, betrayal, and the deadly politics of rap's golden age.
Jay Z got his put by his sister-in-law on camera. What's her name? Solange. You got it. The feds ain't step in and do nothing. The feds don't care about you getting your whooped.
The shadow of Tupac's death. Tupac Shakur wasn't just a rapper, he was a cultural revolution wrapped in human form. By the mid-1990s, he was seen as the voice of the streets, a symbol of resistance, and a threat to anyone trying to control the narrative of hip-hop. On September 7th, 1996, Tupac was gunned down in Las Vegas. Officially, his murder remains unsolved. Unofficially, rumors have always swirled about East Coast versus West Coast rivalries, gang retaliation, and record label power plays. But the newly referenced FBI files don't just recycle old theories, they point fingers in directions that could unravel hip-hop's highest towers. The alleged FBI files. The files allegedly reference connections between major East Coast moguls and coordinated efforts to neutralize Tupac. At the time, Pac had aligned heavily with Suge Knight and Death Row Records, an alliance that threatened to shift the balance of power away from East Coast elites. According to these claims, Diddy, then rising to dominance with Bad Boy Records.
I think that they don't want, if they was in any of those freak-off tapes, if they played a part in
Records feared Tupac's influence. But what's shocking is the suggestion that Jay Z, a figure often seen as more business-minded than violent, may have lent support, not with bullets, but with silence, strategy, and access. Why would Jay Z, still early in his career in the mid-90s, be linked to such a dark chapter? The files allege that he was positioning himself as a protege of Diddy, aligning with power to ensure survival. At that time, Jay Z wasn't yet the billionaire mogul we know today. He was still carving his lane, trying to avoid being swallowed by bigger sharks in the game. The FBI notes claim that in order to rise, silence was his currency. Allegedly, Jay Z chose not to speak against what was being planned, instead choosing to align himself with Diddy's empire, no matter the cost. The Vegas setup. The reports suggest that multiple individuals, connected loosely to both gangs and the music business, were positioned in Las Vegas the night Tupac was shot. According to whispers in the documents, industry insiders had foreknowledge of the attack. This is where Jay Z's name surfaces. His presence in circles tied to Diddy gave him access to the chatter, but rather than alerting authorities or allies, he allegedly turned a blind eye. In the cold world of hip-hop business wars, silence sometimes equals complicity. The puzzle of power. To understand why these figures might have turned against Tupac, we need to revisit the power struggle of the 90s. Bad Boy Records wanted dominance. Death Row was its biggest threat. Tupac wasn't just an artist, he was a revolutionary spirit with mainstream influence. His partnership with Suge Knight threatened to crush Bad Boy and anyone aligned with them. If these files are accurate, Diddy and his camp viewed Tupac not just as competition, but as an existential danger. Jay Z, tethered to Diddy's orbit, may have calculated that it was safer to be silent than to resist. Silence is deadly. The claim isn't that Jay Z pulled the trigger. Far from it. Instead, it's that his silence, his choice to look away, was a form of protection for those orchestrating the crime. By refusing to speak out, by keeping secrets that the FBI believes he may have known, Jay Z allegedly bought himself favor with powerful players. And from that silence, his career was allowed to grow, untouched, as others around him fell to violence, scandal, or prison cells. The industry's dark web. The music industry has always had two faces, the glamorous stage lights and the backroom deals dripping with blood and betrayal. Tupac exposed the hypocrisy, calling out enemies publicly, daring them to strike. If Jay Z was indeed aware, his decision to stay quiet could be seen as a survival tactic. But decades later, that silence might come back to haunt him, especially if more FBI revelations surface. The aftermath after Tupac's death, Diddy's influence grew. Bad Boy Records reigned. Jay Z's career also accelerated, slowly climbing until he became the juggernaut of hip-hop. For years, questions about who really killed Tupac circled the culture. But if the files hold truth, it suggests a chilling reality. The very architects of modern hip-hop empire building were standing in the shadows of Tupac's murder. The moral question. What does it mean if one of the world's biggest moguls chose silence over justice? Could Jay Z's empire have been built on a foundation of looking the other way? Fans will argue, critics will speculate, but the files remind us, sometimes it's not about who fires the shot, it's about who lets it happen. If these files gain traction, if investigations are reopened, the ripple effects will shake the very core of hip-hop's biggest dynasties. Jay Z's carefully crafted image as a businessman, philanthropist, and cultural icon could fracture under scrutiny. And for Diddy, already facing mounting controversies, this could be the final blow. More than 25 years after Tupac's murder, the wounds of hip-hop still bleed. The FBI files suggest that silence, secrecy, and loyalty to power may have buried the truth. If Jay Z really stood by and let Diddy orchestrate one of music's darkest nights, history will never look at him the same way again. The question now isn't just who killed Tupac, but who knew, and why did they keep silent?